Do you want more success, more growth, more results? Then it's time for the Boundless Success Accelerator from the Modern Observer Group. This isn't your average coaching program. It's where top performers come to dominate. Weekly group sessions, on-demand coaching, a community that's got your back, and a power-packed library of tools to supercharge your business and career. No more excuses, no more waiting. Get in, level up, and start building the life you've been dreaming about. Visit us at modernobserver.com/boundlesssuccess to join today. Let's get you to the next level.
Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And we've all had difficult times in our life, Dr. Lopkin. We've overcome them. Certain things I'm not sure I could overcome, and that would be the Kamala Harris book, 107 Days. My question to you is, would you rather be waterboarded or have to listen to the audio book?
That's tough because as bad as I know the book is, there's this morbid curiosity.
I would listen to about an hour on my commute, back and forth of the audio book.
Yeah,
it would be pretty fun.
I think it depends on how long the book is. I mean, I have heard from some people who have seen advanced drafts of the book that...
I heard 500.
Oh, I didn't hear anything about page counts, but I have heard several people that have seen advanced drafts of the book say essentially that this is a book of fiction because Kamala is so delusional about what she did wrong. She refuses to take any responsibility for her own gaffes, her own inadequacies. So the book is essentially who she wants to blame.
Yeah, but isn't that indicative of pretty much her life? Has she ever really grabbed onto something? Has she ever had conviction? I would say no. You're an analytical person. The chances of her actually writing this book from 1 to 10, 1 being like, or 0 to 10, 0 is 0, and 10, what do you think?
Oh, no, this was ghostwritten. There's no doubt about it.
It's really funny because she did her video, the social media launch. And when she says, and I launched my book, she actually looked at the cover for a second to remind her of what the title is.
Well, now I'm going to defend her slightly. 99% of books written by politicians on both sides of the aisle are ghostwritten. These people can't. Bill Clinton didn't write his own. Most of the guys don't write their own memoirs. I would doubt that even Barack Obama, who he is, as much as I didn't like his policy, an amazing communicator. But I doubt that he wrote his entire book. He probably did more than Kamala did, but they bring in ghostwriters. They're heavily edited. So, saying that she didn't write it really isn't shocking.
Okay, but there is a difference. You have the semblance or the veneer of possibility. Okay?
Yes.
Like it's about as believable as an AI generated Mr. Sherman dunking the ball in an NBA game. There is no illusion that she possibly. Go ahead.
What you just said is actually a possibility that she did do this, but she had AI write it.
You are correct.
That's now another possibility.
Hey, first time Carnivore Bites. There you go. And she did say that she's dropping out of politics because it's broken. broken. That's all she's done her entire life, and now she's decided that it's...
She didn't say she's dropping out of politics. She said she's dropping out of the California gubernatorial race. She was very careful not to say she's not going to run for president in the next election. She desperately wants to keep that possibility open because, again, the same way the book does not acknowledge her own shortcomings and her own mistakes, she does not accept the fact that she got her clock cleaned and it had nothing to do with the fact that it was a short campaign.
And she also can't come to grips that no one likes her. She's one of these people that always wanted to be liked. Either it's Willie Brown or whoever. She's not likable. She's in the same category as Hillary. I do believe that in her deepest crevices of that pea brain, that she does understand with her operatives have told her that she has zero chance of winning the presidency. But that probably will not stop her.
It probably won't stop her. But your comparison to Hillary Clinton is interesting because I would actually say she is less likable than Hillary Clinton. And
is that possible?
I'm basing this on her own staff. Hillary Clinton had staff members that were with her for decades. They stuck with her through thick and thin. How many turnovers did she have in her staff just during the time she was vice president? It was a revolving door. She couldn't even keep people on her own staff.
Well done. I would agree with that 100%. I've actually heard a story, and I believe it is true, that to give an idea of how horrible it is working with her, she had her whole staff basically do a mock-up because she was going to go to some state dinner, and they had to pretend that there were different figures of countries. Like, that is like out there, dude. That's out there.
I don't know that that's so out there. That is actually the only indication we've ever seen that she was acknowledging her own shortcomings. She knew she couldn't go to this event unprepared. She failed at the preparation, but at least she tried. That's the only time we've ever seen her acknowledge her own shortcomings.
I think you're correct on that one. Yes, good point. Yes, but her whole modus operandi has always been no hard work because you are a product of your past, and everything just came easy to her. Appointed for this, nominated for, got the senatorial nod by not really running. So everything's been given to her. She's never really worked. And that whole shtick that she's middle class. No, both her parents were professors. And I don't know how they produced such a dummy, but oh well.
Yeah, no, she was not middle class. But actually, what you're talking about with her always taking the easy path was pointed out during her presidential run in 2020, because numerous Democratic pundits pointed out that she had never run a real campaign. And because of that, she did not have the grassroots backing that most candidates build up. She did not have the built-in audience that most politicians... Remember, it's very rare that a politician wins their first race. Usually they run for something local, they come close or they don't quite make it, but they've started to make a name for themselves. So the next time they come back and they do better, and then they go into the whole run up to Congress, governor, whatever it is they want to do. She never had that campaign experience. It was because it was all handed to her. She never had that built-in audience.
I want to also throw out something. It's a huge leap of faith, but I'm not so sure she ever balanced a checkbook. Why do I say that? How do you blow almost $2 billion? No, that should be the book. That's much more engaging.
Honestly,
that's something I would read it. How to blow almost $2 million in 3 months.
$2 million. Where are you getting your numbers?
No, $2 billion.
Yes. No, it was $1 billion, but it was. No, oh, okay.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like 1.8.
I thought you said million. I'm like, no, no, no.
No,
She
no,
blew
I thought
a
it was like
lot more than that. It was.
I thought it was like 1.5.
Yeah, one is the number that gets tossed around. The exact figure varies from person to person. It's probably around $1.5 billion
Yeah.
that she actually got. She actually spent in 107 days, and it's not that she spent the money. I mean, campaigns are expensive. It's the fact that she spent it and lost ground from Joe Biden in every district.
Good. Well, her money well spent, because you got to try to do that. Maybe
Yeah,
she was so dumb. Maybe she gave the checkbook to the Republican Party. You never know.
I don't know. I don't know what she did. I mean, we do know she was paying famous people to show up and perform at her events. That was the only way, apparently, she could get audiences to show up. We know she was paying people to attend her rallies. The PR
And
company,
endorse her.
yeah, the PR company. Now I'm just talking about crowds. The
Yep.
PR companies that actually hired the folks to do this have all come out and said, yes, we built fake audiences for her. So a lot of it was just trying to show that she stood a chance when everybody knew she didn't.
Well, we'll talk about that later. We'll get into the media later, but that's another subject. In my old age, I'm a bigger believer in karma. Hillary has her own karma hell. How do you like that? I think Kamala might have not the degree of temperature, but not going to be all that happy. She's not going to make it any. Her political future is gone. There's no way anyone's going to want to pay her for any kind of keynote address. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I heard like one of those housewives show on reality TV.
Yeah, I'm not even sure she can do that. I mean, we keep comparing her and Hillary Clinton. And let's face it, the reason we keep doing that is because they both ran for president. They both lost to Donald Trump. There are some parallels, but there are also
Unlikable.
yeah, definitely unlikable, but there's also some pretty big differences. And I think the biggest one is Hillary is not stupid, but she is Machiavellian. She is manipulative. She is absolutely, trying to control everything behind the scenes. I never got the feeling that Harris was like that. I thought she was just completely incompetent and in over her head.
I would believe in that analysis 100%. But it also goes into, you can make some assertion that Hillary did put some effort into some things.
Yes.
I think that and became Machiavellian in the end, because that's the only thing she had in her whole life is power. I think Kamala is a story of just liked the glamour, but she had no interest in really doing the job of a president. She just wanted to be in the limelight.
Yes.
Without doing the work.
Very, very much so. Hillary wanted to be president because she wanted the power. Harris wanted the presidency because she wanted the fame and the limelight. Hillary, as much as we dislike her and disagree with her policies, would have done the job. I'm not saying she would have done a good job, but she would have made the effort and done the job. Harris, I don't think would have. She would have tried to pass everything off on other people, and it would have been an abject disaster.
I actually will go one step further. I think with Hillary, your life, my life, our listeners' lives would go on. Her policies would suck, but whatever. With Kamala, we dodged a bullet, a literal bullet. I believe we could have been easily in World War III. It was that bad. You had a cackling moron who makes Biden look like a Mensa candidate.
Well, I mean, just think of how Russia-Ukraine would have escalated, The crisis in Israel would have escalated because nobody would have had their foot on the brake. Trump has
Iran would have gotten the bomb.
Yeah, Iran would have been running wild all over the Middle East. I don't think Iran would have gotten the bomb yet, but they'd certainly be well on their way. Like Trump or not, he has been a moderating influence, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but he has been a moderating influence on these ongoing wars, even going as far as getting a peace treaty in Africa. Harris would not have been able to do any of that. NATO would not have stepped up to pay 5% of their GDP for defense because nobody would have taken her seriously.
I think it would have been also someone we won't be doing the show next week, looking at some retirement possibilities, and I would have to say that all bets would be off economically. If you're on a fixed income, basically, who knows? I mean, could be hyperinflation, recessions. I mean, it was just a disaster. In closing, I am going to miss her, though. I miss Uncle Joe. I'm glad he's out. But I am going to miss the cackling. I was better than Johnny Carson, or at least close, when she tried to be so profound, a walking about the simple, like how to change cat litter. I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss it. Sorry, I am. But anyway, moving on. Any final thoughts on Kamala?
No, I think she'll sell the book. She'll hype the book up. I doubt it's going to do all that well. And then
before you go on, only Lopkin's insight. Please tell me the demographics and IQ of her readers, the 5 of them.
No, I think she'll have more than that because she is going to have what has been termed the awfuls, affluent white female liberals. I think they will buy her book. These folks,
I think you're correct.
These folks supported her for president. They wanted her in the White House. They had no idea how bad it would be, but they wanted her. And I think they'll go out and buy the book. So I don't know that it'll do all that well, but she'll sell books. It'll do. But I don't think it'll be enough for her. And I have a feeling that lack of spotlight, the lack of success, I think that's going to push her further into wanting to run for president again because she needs that spotlight.
I think you have a very good point, and you're right, because without that, she's hollow, because that's driven her throughout her entire life. Very interesting. Speaking of individuals who are maybe seeing their best days, we have Adam Schiff. And it used to be kind of wishful thinking on the GOP side that we're going to do this to him. He's, on all accounts, in real trouble, Dr. Lopkin. Legal, that is.
Yes, he is now being investigated by the DOJ for mortgage fraud. And already we've actually seen legal documents, which is rare this early in an investigation. Usually it's kept well under wraps. But I think Schiff himself had actually over the years made these documents public, where as congressman from California, now senator from California, he has a house in Maryland. And to get a better loan terms, claimed that his home in Maryland was his primary residence. Now, this is obviously mortgage fraud. It's illegal. It's fraudulent on the bank. So you have this is very interesting because you have this contrast between the case that they tried to bring against Donald Trump, where the banks were saying, no, we didn't get hurt. Nobody was damaged in this. It didn't happen. Where here the banks are actually going to be plaintiffs. And where in the Trump case, this was the state versus, because they could not name a single injured party. Right. There were no victims. Here, there are actual victims. And there have been politicians who have done this before. They have been convicted and they have gone to jail. So there is an actual possibility that he will be sent to jail. He can be stripped of his law license. And if he doesn't go to jail, there is the possibility that if he can prove that Maryland was actually his primary residence,
I love it,
he will probably be forced out of the Senate because you cannot represent the state you don't live in.
Only Dr. Lopkin, isn't that the catch-22? That to get out of jail, you might have to get out of the Senate. Right? It's either one or the other, right?
Yeah,
I like that one, Dr. Lopkin.
It is absolutely ridiculous. And the irony of all of this is not the only political mortgage fraud investigation going on, because Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, that tried to go up against Trump and swore in her campaign she was going to nail him, is also being investigated for the exact same crime because she did the exact same thing.
You can't make it up, could you?
No, you really can't. We've said over and over on this podcast that anytime the Democrats accuse somebody of something, it's because they've done it. Well, guess what?
It's called projection.
Yes, they were trying to nail Trump for all this real estate fraud. Turned out they were the ones doing it.
Couldn't happen to a nicer group of people. Very, very good. And speaking of a nice group of people, we have Russiagate. Was a sideline, a right-wing infatuation with no merit. Just to put it in perspective, we'll talk about media in our next segment, but we have the media devoting hours of Russiagate coverage. And now that we have the tables turning, literally, and you might think I made this up, I didn't. 3 minutes? That's across all networks.
Yeah, the media coverage has been absolutely pathetic because they don't want to admit that they didn't even investigate. They took it was Adam Schiff.
They were enablers.
It was Adam Schiff who was the biggest proponent of this theory. He was out there on every news show claiming he had the evidence. And now not only did he not have the evidence, but we find they knew this was a phony narrative and decided to classify that information so that the Trump campaign couldn't see this. And they found that it goes all the way up to Barack Obama. And here's the thing, and this absolutely infuriates me, because when there is coverage of this, even on the networks that tend to lean conservative, they all talk about the fact that, well, there's nothing that can be done to Obama because he has presidential immunity, as the Supreme Court decided in the Trump case. No, this is not correct. If you read the Supreme Court decision, presidential immunity only exists for things you are doing in the course of the presidency. If Donald Trump orders a drone strike on a known terrorist to protect national security, he cannot be prosecuted for that. If, however, he orders a drone strike on a private American citizen because he wants to buy his real estate, he can be prosecuted for that even though he is president. The same thing goes for Obama. What this was Donald Trump had already won the presidency. So this was an attempt to hamstring the next president. That is by that is by no stretch of the imagination an official presidential act.
I would agree on all that. I also, I believe in many others do, it makes Watergate look like a double-A baseball game. Nothing. Biggest scandal in at least 100 years in America, going back to maybe McKinley. I think that nothing will legally happen to Obama. I think Clapper, Brennan better be. They're not enjoying themselves right now. I would actually believe the odds are in their disfavor. I believe that legal consequences will happen to them. But the theme of the show has kind of been the unofficial theme, that is, of kind of karma. And I think Obama, his legacy was already circling down the toilet. It's just one more fuel on the fire. Hillary's already finished. It's just a further shovelful on the grave. Your thoughts?
Yeah,
I don't even think, last thing before you say anything is, I believe that almost the legality, besides Brennan and Clapper, because they deserve, and Comey, they deserve jail time, but it's almost inconsequential that Obama or Hillary. It's just the stain, because again, they live for their reputation, especially Obama, the only president that never left Washington. And now from Uncle Joe, Hillary's loss, and this entanglement, his legacy, and also more reflection on his failed presidency, he's pretty much kaput. Your thoughts, Lopkin?
Yeah, I think, I kind of want to say this is the final nail, but I don't think it is, because every time we learn more about the Obama presidency, his legacy takes another hit. I don't know how much, more you can degrade it, but I think it's going to be bigger than just his legacy, because now that the investigation is in full reign, you're going to see how many people were involved in this. You're going to, certainly Schiff is going to be lambasted because he was the front man for all of this. He was the one.
May I interject a question? Could he be censured in the Senate from that? Basically, when it comes out that he completely fabricated, it was complete bullshit.
I'm not sure. I think it's going to depend on what the investigation finds, because Schiff isn't. I don't honestly believe that Schiff is the mastermind behind all of this. If he were, then yes, he could certainly be censured for this behavior.
I don't think he's the mastermind.
No,
but
I think he was the dupe. I don't even know that he's a conspirator. I think he was the chosen dupe. I think he was the one that everybody else fed fake information to, because they knew he would believe it. They knew he would bang the drum for it, and they could stay in the shadows.
Lopkin, that's brilliant. I have never heard that on anything I've seen. I think you're right, because every media outlet that is conservative who talks about shit portrays him, positions him as a leading operative, so to speak. I think you're right. I think, who do we dump this shit on? Who's gullible enough, eager enough to just run with this shit, and an opportunist enough, and he fits all the categories, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. We do know that he knew he was lying in a lot of these interviews. And I will actually give credit to my wife, because she actually caught his tell in some of these interviews. And for the most part, he would talk and it was fine. But when he knew he was lying, his eyes bugged a little bit, and immediately, anybody who's played poker knows people when they bluff have a tell that was his. So he knew
Right.
everything wasn't above board. But I don't know how much of it he knew wasn't above board. I think he had been fed, all of this stuff by the folks that wanted to stay in the shadows, and he was more than happy to try to make a name for himself. He probably thought he was going to be able to make such a name that he would be able to run for president.
I think you're correct. I think he's sweating. I think I envision him as kind of a wimpy guy, so he doesn't have the constitution to weather storms like Trump did. I think he's going to cry like a bitch. How do you like that? He's already doing that behind the scenes because he knows he's in real trouble with mortgage fraud, and he's at the center, not as the orchestra, because I do agree, but he's in neck deep in the biggest scandal in 100 years.
See, now the question is, will he withstand enough to get, find everything out and get punished? Or is he so big an opportunist that he will take the opportunity to flip and name names and say where he got this stuff and help the investigation in order to save his own behind? And I'm not sure which way he'll go. I don't think he has the strength of character to really face down the investigation, but I think he also might not have enough character to flip and do the right thing.
Yeah, I think he would flip if it wasn't this situation. Because if he flips, look what they did to Trump, who was the president of the United States. You think little pencil neck is going to withstand the full force of Obama, the Clintons, the whole apparatchik? Not a chance.
But that's the thing. If he were to flip, and I'm not saying that's going to happen, this is all speculation, but if he were, it would cripple that apparatus. What they could do to him would be, it would be so much less than what they tried to do to Trump, because the credibility would be gone. Certainly the money would be gone.
Goodbye. Yep. No, it will make for some good TV.
Yes, it'll make for interesting storytelling.
Now, speaking of TV, we have the media, and it's been going on for some time, but nothing more profound than our last presidential election, and that is the changing media. You look at what's going on with the firings, okay? Of late, just came over the speculation that Howard Stern is gone, who was once the king of all media. Then he became woke, and you know what his whole listenership is? He used to have 20 million listeners. You know what it is now?
I'd be shocked if it was 2.
It's 140,000.
Wow, that I would not have expected it to go that low.
Yep, but it's Sirius Radio has a subscription base of about 30 million. He has a small sliver. And someone that deals with youth, here's some good commentaries, that if you look at someone that's under 30, they don't even know who the hell he is.
No, they don't.
Yeah, and that's the demographic. I would say even you could be pushing people under 40. That's how long he's been irrelevant. But he did flip. He became boring. And I did like the commentary, just like old rock groups. He stayed on. I don't know why he stayed on so long, but he also became kind of macabre and sick at the end. Not just because I don't agree with him politically. I mean, kind of like a real wussy. Like he wouldn't leave his compound because of the pandemic. It's like, grow a pair, dude. He still doesn't come out of his compound.
Yeah, we are seeing a massive shift in media. And it's not just television. Obviously, you were just talking about Howard Stern, that's satellite radio. I don't think he's been on TV in about 20 years, at least. I mean, if you remember, actually, no, come to
No,
think
he
of it,
did
it's
something, some bullshit show like the stuff. He hasn't been in relevant TV.
yeah,
I agree with you for over 20 years. Yes. Who cares?
something
Yep,
like
you're
that.
right. Yeah.
But you're seeing now that the media companies are going, wait a minute, you know what? Yeah, well, we agree with the politics. We agree with what they're saying. We can't afford to support this anymore. So now,
No. What you said is not a minor point. It's been said before, but now it's like you can bullshit it long enough, and yeah, I like him because he's like Colbert, he's woke. But when you're talking 40 million with
right.
Howard, I'm not going to do the math, but when you have 130,000 listeners and you're making 100 million, do the math. I mean, you get to a point where it ain't working out. Even Gayle King, who I have to give her full credit, it looks like she's going to be fired. I know that Oprah was behind her, but someone of minimal intellect and less than minimal ability, I give her credit. She milked it for over 20 years. Made a lot more money than I ever did.
She did. But right now, CBS Mornings is getting less than 2 million viewers. It is hemorrhaging. No, it's especially not for one of what used to be called the big three networks.
Mm-hmm.
It is hemorrhaging money, and she's just not worth her paycheck. So yeah, they're going. Now, you're also seeing, though, I mean, first of all, the left is completely overreacting because they don't want to believe that they're costing this much money. I saw on social media this massive conversation because the person who was responsible for making the decision to fire Colbert under the new management is going to be running television, which puts him in charge of a brand new deal that Paramount signed with South Park. And they're going, oh my God, the person that fired Colbert is going to be censoring South Park. No, he's not going to censor South Park because South Park is profitable. South Park pays the bills. That's what this is about. It's about making money again. Now, in terms of politics and making money, you're starting to see an expansion of media, which shocked me, in the newspaper industry.
Whoa.
Two major stories came out about brand new newspapers. One coming out of New York was the reemergence of the New York Sun. Now, for those of our listeners who are not familiar with the New York Sun, the New York Sun is a 160-year-old newspaper that over the past 20 years has come and gone and, the reputation of the New York Sun, and most of our listeners will probably recognize this story, but the reputation of the New York Sun was beyond such reproach. Everybody believed everything. It was so trustworthy that in 1899, a young girl wrote a letter to the New York Sun because her father told her, if you see it in the Sun, it's true. And the response to that letter became the most famous editorial of all time. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus.
That's awesome.
Now,
that's really good.
It is back. And the mission that is stated all over it is that they are coming back to bring truth back to New York newspapers. And they name in particular The lies that have been told by the New York Times.
Let me ask you a question about the New York Times, because that really kind of baffles me. Isn't it really a left-wing rag dressed up as an erudite, highfalutin, intellectual paper?
But
I
it
mean,
is. It
what would
is
they do with
now.
Russiagate?
It is now. I mean, this is really something that happened probably over the last 20 years or so, maybe a little longer, maybe a little shorter, but around that. But I mean, certainly when I was growing up and when I was studying journalism, this is back in the 80s and early 90s, the New York Times was still impeccable. And then it just fell apart. The politics became too much.
Isn't that just basically not a microcosm, a definite correlation between what happened to the New York Times? I know one is news, but also with late night, with Colbert and Kimmel and all the others. They used
and you're
to be
seeing,
impeccable, whatever you want to call it.
Yes. And you're seeing a shift in late night also. Now that Colbert has doubled down, now that he's been fired, he's doubled down. He has had nothing but extreme left-wing guests on, including Kamala Harris. Well, guess what?
Didn't go well.
It's not going well, but NBC has decided they need to counter-program this. And you are seeing more conservative voices have a place on The Tonight Show. In fact, at some point this week, I'm not sure if it's tonight, tomorrow, or Friday, one of the guests on The Tonight Show is Greg Gutfeld.
That's awesome. That's a huge shift.
Yes. So you're seeing late night shift. And then getting back to newspapers, the New York Post has announced they are going to be publishing a brand new newspaper. Same basic look, feel, and voice as the New York Post, based in Los Angeles, and it is going to be the California Post.
Fantastic. Yep. There is definitely a sea change. You look at media, even with, the Sweeney commercials, there is, you can sense it. You can sense it, the old guard, and they're not going peacefully. That is in politics and in media. There's structural differences, but when you look at the media, yes, they certainly accelerated their demise by being abject liars. Russiagate and embracing everything that supported their narrative. And even the only people that are left are probably the ideologues on MSNBC, even though that's shrinking as well, who are just hopeless. Even CNN has had positive reports, not that it's prevalent, about Trump, calling him actually the most consequential president in 100 years. So that would never happen, CNN,
And remember, yes, MSNBC is hanging on to this, but they're also about to be spun off because Comcast doesn't want to lose the money anymore.
We'll see what happens there now. Looking at our last subject matter, that's economic data. Some interesting things with the jobs number, Powell, other things. Let's kick it off, Dr. Lopkin.
Yeah, the jobs numbers came out last week and they were abysmal. And even more than the horrible jobs numbers that were reported for July, May and June were revised downwards. They were both up approximately around 140,000 jobs. They were both downgraded to, I believe, between the two, an estimated around an average of 15,000 jobs from 140,000 jobs. And the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics was fired by Trump. And of course, the left is yelling, well, she said that the economy's bad under Trump, so he fired her. Okay, there's one of two things going on. Either one, she lied about the current numbers, in which case she should be fired. Or the other choice in this matter is she missed the estimates on the job numbers for the past 2 months by more than 10 times. Okay, to steal an old line from Lewis Black, if you were a roofer and you missed by that much, you'd still be in jail.
True. Yes. But she also inflated the job numbers before the election of last year.
Right. The job numbers from just before the election were inflated. That came out after the election. So, oh no, we overestimated. So she has been wrong consistently for months in both directions. I mean, this is someone that needed to be removed.
Does it surprise you that she's a Biden appointee?
No,
talk about a cast of characters.
It didn't surprise me at all. And the problem is, this wasn't just, well, she made Trump look bad and that's the problem. No, this had major repercussions. If the accurate numbers, let's assume that the May revision is accurate and that it was only around 10,000 jobs. If that had been reported in May, the Fed would have lowered interest rates because that would have been pushing the economy downwards. If that same thing, if the June numbers were correct, the Fed would have stood by that lowering of interest rates, might have lowered it again, might have not. But
100%, that's the real rub.
Yes, that whole thing had major economic implications for both better and worse. So, yeah, this is somebody that needed to be removed because she was clearly not capable of doing the job.
Yeah, I cannot argue with that. You could have the conspiracy, deep state, what have you. I mean, I wonder how many of her co-workers, constituents were in on the gig as well. I mean, once it happens. I've seen that, but she's been doing this for almost a year now. Again, another stellar Biden appointee. Of course, he didn't know he appointed her. There's no way.
No, of course she knew.
No, he didn't know that he appointed her.
He didn't know that she appointed. Okay, yes, that's completely plausible. Yes.
There you go. Well, Dr. Lopkin, another edition of Carnivore Bites. We'll be back in 2. Our listeners can contribute to the show, can't they?
Yeah, let's hear what you have to say. What do you want us to look at? What topics are you interested in? And what do you think of our analysis? Do you disagree? Let us know. We want to know not just if you agree, but if you disagree. And we want to hear your arguments for and against. You can go to the Facebook Carnivore Radio page, messages there. You can also go to xvadio.com/connect. Send us a message that way. And of course, you can catch every episode of Carnivore Bites at the Carnivore Radio website, xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
Thank you, Dr. Lopkin. See you next time.
We'll see you then.